Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm super excited to be here again. Welcome to our continued session of our series talk, where we will be going over React Native. Kind of just jumping straight into it. Again, welcome to ACM San Antonio's series talk. We're looking at making sure you follow us. That's what we're looking at. So excited to have you here. Make sure you follow us on our socials. Check out our meetups and Luma calendar to stay up to date with our upcoming events, as well as if you're looking to keep the conversation going and checking out other events in San Antonio, head over to DevSA Discord and join that from there. You can either type in the link or scan the QR code, however you're viewing us today. But jumping into it, again, just to reiterate, what is a series talk? It's a multi-week event. We have one speaker, preferred to be easy to follow along. We'll all be streamed online, and the plan is to always have the final event in person. So however that medium happens, looking to all come together and collaborate and build something together. Again, today with React Native, this is part 2 of 3. Our next one is going to be next Thursday in person at Project Cowork. Everything's recorded live, so nothing's saved. So I'm talking to you all live right now, right here at 6:03 p.m. Central. And it's an open Q&A. So if you have any questions for the speaker, they'll probably have the comments to the side, but I'll help mediate those if y'all have any immediate questions for them. Other than that, feel free to drop by the ACM San Antonio community spaces there in DevSA and drop your question there. But with further ado, to just get right to it with Gene. Again, React Native with Gene coming up here. Hi, Gene. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to get the second session started off. So let's just go ahead and start, right?
All right. Okay. So my name is Gene Tigner. I graduated from UTSA in May of 2020. I've been working in software engineering for quite some time now. I have about 2-3 years of React Native experience, as well as 4-ish years of web development experience with specifically with frameworks such as React and Angular. So today, kind of what we're going to be going over. Last time we talked about, setting up our environment variables, making sure that we're good to go, checking the emulators, making sure that they work on your device. Today, we're going to go more into a more formal deep dive into the basics of React and React Native explicitly, what tools you have in your tool belt, and how those tools can help you create your own stylized application. Basically, picking up where we left off last time. Last time we made an application, we deployed it to an emulated device, and we just had it spit out some text. So here I've gone through the liberty of cleaning this up a little bit, and I've taken this app.tsx folder, which is where basically the entry point for our application. The real entry point is actually this index file, but the application is rendered with the app.tsx file. So this is being imported here, it's registered here, and this is the entry point. So this is basically the root of where we're going to be primarily staying. Things where we'll expand from this particular view, and that comes straight out of the box when you create the project. Now, a couple other things to note whenever you create the project. You'll have a package JSON file, standard in your Node applications. Whenever you do an npm install, it creates a package lock. A couple other things that we have here not to worry about. We have a metro config. This is just the configuration that React Native needs in order to spin up the metro compiler. And then just here is for the setup and configuration for tests. So don't worry about these files. Don't worry about these gemlock files. Don't worry about this Babel file. We're going to be mostly working on in here today. So, React likes to keep things compartmentalized. So pretty much everything that you're going to be using are either predefined tools, or you're going to, if nothing really fits your needs, you'll be creating your own custom components using those predefined tools, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at some different views. At the top here, we have our imports. And from React Native, you see that we're importing this text, which is referenced on line 10. And we're importing the safe area view, which is referenced on line 9, and then a closing statement on line 11. You'll notice that the syntax is extremely similar to HTML, and that's no mistake. React was originally built as a way to help people make web apps and websites. So the fact that this looks similar to HTML comes from that root need. These, coming from the React Native library, are sets of instructions that tell the Android and iOS applications how they should build their views. Anything that you do inside of the return block on a function that returns a JSX element or a TSX element, this is going to be what the compiler turns into rendered user interface before both iOS and Android projects. The other space that you have is this free space up here for logic. So you can do whatever you want in this. So you can say like const let's say hello text, and we'll say that this is going to be hello world. So then I will replace this hello with, hello text. Save that, and it should recompile, and you'll see that the text is still on the screen, and it's just a reference now. So anything that you do up here doesn't really need to be recompiled, but anything you do down here would need to be recompiled. So that actually becomes very important whenever you are deploying your application. Say you need to make some logical change. If you're using over-the-air updates, anything that you change logically won't need a new version update whenever you like submit it to the store or anything like that. But anything you change in here, if I add new elements, that new user interface rendering references, new components, anything like that, then your application will need a new store version. And the reason for that is because all of the JavaScript that is held in that is rendered whenever you are building these projects, this logic is being spun up in a dedicated JavaScript bundle that's being, so this on screen here, this may be native iOS, but it's actually attached to a runner that's running JavaScript in real time. So moving on from that, we have this safe area view that we're importing from Hello World. You know, why would we use safe area view over just something like view? Well, if I change this and save it and then import view correctly, let me move this out of the way, save that. You'll see that the text that we had before is now up in the top left-hand corner and completely just out of a safe area for us to interact with. Like this is now up in the toolbar or the header of the phone, and it's getting stuck behind the clock here, and we can't really interact with that. If we put a button there, our users would absolutely lose their mind. Definitely don't want that experience. So React Native has a solution for us, and that solution is to use Safe Area View. Now, what does Safe Area View consist of? Well, let's take a look at this. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to change the color of the background, but in order to do that, I'm going to import from React Native the style sheet component. And what this lets us do is it lets us create our own styles. So I'm going to make a new constant. I'm going to call it styles, and I am going to say stylesheet.create. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and let the autocomplete, for the sake of simplicity and time, I'm going to let the autocomplete that I have here autocomplete for me. And now I have this styles reference that's referencing the style sheet component, and I can access these. So it's very similar to CSS. It's a little different in that these aren't strings of text. They're more like just predefined items. But we can now use these within the style component here. And I can say that I want this to equal styles.container. So now that moves that into the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and say that the text is set to styles.text. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to 36, and I'm going to make the font weight be bold. All right. So that's how we mess with styles. Now to see the affected area on screen for the safe area view, we can change the background color to something like, let's just do red. So you'll see that even though the safe area view keeps us within the confines of in terms of like keeping text away from the top of the header, the background still goes up through the header of the phone. So keeping that in mind. Basically, the safe area view, all it's doing is providing the context of its children to bump down into a more appropriate location. All right, so let me go back over here to my document that I have for myself. And so we talked about views and text. We're going to move on to talking about images, displaying images. So React Native also has an image class, or an image, a component that we can take advantage of. And what I've gone and done is I have imported into this application some Pokemon. And we're going to, throughout the course of this talk, granted if I have enough time, which I should, we're going to make a tiny little Pokedex with just 9 Pokemon in it. It's not going to be super complicated. It'll be very simple. But I am going to go ahead and use this image here as a reference for the image components. So I'm going to grab the, let's see, copy path / reference, and I'm going to go ahead and copy the path from the root. I am going to take this, I'm going to make it a constant, and I'm going to say some image is equal to require, and I'm going to paste in this image reference. Now, source assets, images, Pokemon cannot be found and within the project or in these directories. Okay, I think that the reason this happens is because there's a missing reference in one of our configuration files, and I think it's in, let me just double check something real quick. One second, please. Got to do some real-time troubleshooting. Okay, does it source assets, images, Pokemon, yeah, so it does exist. It is there. Okay, let me try this. Let's rebuild it. See if it recognizes the reference after rebuild it. Unable to resolve module cannot be found within the project for these directories. Okay, so still no. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm not entirely sure that's accurate, but I'll give it a shot. Cannot find module. Well, I mean, it's not really a module, but all right. Well, let's try this then. Let's just try this. If this doesn't work, then I will just move on. Okay. 1 second. Okay, so we have this image here. So let's go ahead and create an image component within our safe area view. And we will also image here. Okay, save that. And then we're going to rerun this. So that way hopefully this error goes away. And then we'll wait for this to build. Okay, so we're going to set the source of the image to be image. Let's see if that works out. No, it does not. Okay, so let me just try setting the source directly. All right, so I'll come back to that. So we'll come back to images. Give me a moment here. What's next on the plate? All right, so let's talk about a scroll view. So one of the things that we'll be looking at, so we're going to be making a list here, and one of the things that we want to make sure that we are able to allow our users to do is be able to scroll up and down that list. So let me comment out some of this stuff here, and let's do a scroll view. And we're going to put the scroll view within the safe area view. So inside here, we should have a scroll view. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to put it inside the scroll view. And now I have this scrollable view. Now, because the scroll view has an indeterminate size, or rather the container is now above it, this got removed from the center. So if I was to take this and add the style back to it for styles.container, it should move itself back to the middle. Scroll filter justify content must be applied through the content container styles. Okay, so there is content container style. Container. Let's try that. There we go. So now this is back in the middle and we have scrollability. So what this looks like, let's say I have 1 million of these. Oops. Just going to render a bunch of them. Save that. Get rid of some syntax wonkiness. And now I have, let's put a few more in here. And we can scroll this up and down. It does kind of falls below this view here. Doesn't quite stay. Seems to be bouncing back to its original position. But that's just a byproduct of scroll view. If we go to scroll view's documentation for React Native, let me see here. Let's see. So its parent container has that flex view. Let's go ahead and make a change here. Let's make a scroll view container. So let's just scroll container. Let's go ahead and give it a defined height. And so let's see, let's change its background color to blue just for the sake of showing the difference. And then let's go ahead and give it a height of, let's say, 300. It's going to be a very small amount of height. Let's save that. And let's move, whoops, let's copy this and paste it into here now. So now you'll see, well, this bleeds off the page because we have too much content for the view. So the overflow should technically be hidden there. Is that views? Let's go ahead and save area view didn't have scrollability. Oh, let's try that. Okay, well, moving on. So let's talk about buttons now. So let me go ahead and clean this up a bit, and we'll move on to a button topic. So get rid of that, get rid of the scroll view, keep the safe area view. And then we are going to remove this reference. I'm going to change the background back to white. And let's go ahead and add a button. So there's a couple of different ways to add buttons. You can totally just use the button class. That is perfectly acceptable. However, I would highly recommend learning how to create your own buttons. So what this is going to wind up looking like, we will pass in button. We'll give it a title of press me, and then we'll have an on press that's going to spit out a console log message of button pressed. So this is what this looks like. This just turns into a standard button. On Android, it looks like the standard Android button. On iOS, it looks like the standard iOS button. But while this is, again, acceptable, it's a bit too generic, and we want to make our own customizable kind of button. To do that, we would use the pressable. So pressable is a newer way of creating these custom buttons. Previously, you had touchable opacity, which is still here, but it is being pressable is preferred over it now. So if to make a better button, we can say, okay, pressable. All right, and then we can give it some on press functionality. And then we're going to say pressable pressed. And then inside for its children here, we can then start defining other things. Like we can give it a text here. We can style some text. So I'll go ahead and make this press me again. And then save that. Oops, hold on. For the equals here. So this is slightly less styled. However, you can have more control. So let's do a style element here. And I'm just going to do some inline styling. I'm going to say, whoops, background color is going to be blue. I'm going to give it some padding here and a border radius. So this looks more like an appropriate button. The text could use some styling as well. We're going to make the color for the text be white. Oh, missing a set of parentheses. I mean brackets. And then we can have more fine grain control here by setting the font weight. Let's make that bold as well. And let's make the font size bigger. So let's do font size of, say, 40. All right. So Now we have a more customizable button. What we can do now is we can take this, create our own component, which I'll show momentarily. I'm probably not going to make this its own component, but I'll piecemeal some other things. And so and we also shown that in order to hook into the event, we can configure an anonymous function here, or we can have some predefined handler. So like say if I want to come up here and make a const some handler, or like click handler or press handler or touch handler. I can't bad with names. Touch handler. Let's because we're going to touch it because it's a button on a phone. So let's say that we're going to pass this into it, and we'll say take this console log statement and put it in here. And instead of doing this, we can now pass in touch handler. And this should behave the exact same way. Click this. You'll see that we get logs here for pressables being pressed. This is misspelled. All right. So, all right, what about changing some information on screen based on a button press? So let's say we want to change this text here based on an interaction with this pressable here. So let me get rid of this button. And let me go ahead and show some differences here. So let's say that this is not a const. Let's say this is a let, right? Let's say that whenever we do the touch handler, this is going to change the hello text to button pressed. So let's do that, change that, and click this. And you'll notice that the text isn't changing. But why wouldn't the text be changing? So in order to change rendered components on screen, we have to make use of React's state-based systems. So here, I'm going to introduce something new. I'm going to create a constant. I'm going to set some hello text here, and I'm going to set the hello text there, and then do something called set hello text. I'm going to have this be equal to react.useState, and I am going to pass in a pre-filled string. So this is going to be a type of string. And this is going to be this is just going to be starting off as hello world. So we no longer need this here, and we can change this to lowercase hello and then uppercase text to match this. But now we have this setter. So this is going to handle changing the state information of this object. So whenever we do that, instead of this, we will pass in set hello text, and then this is going to be button pressed. So let's save this, click it, and now it changes. So what's happening here is a re-render. So let me see. What's a good way of giving an example of it being re-rendered? Can I use effect here? And then put in hello text as a dependency, and then saying, let's do that. So you can see, let me see. Let me refresh that. iOS. I'm going to change this to where every time the button is clicked, it gets an incremented number by 1, just because state is kind of smart in that it won't re-render if it's the exact same thing. So looking, let's see, touch handler. Let's go ahead and make another state information. Let's make const. Let's make count and set count. And then we'll say that we're going to start with 0. And then we'll append, we'll do set count is equal to count plus 1. And we'll do it above this. And then this we will append plus count. So now whenever I click this number will increase every time I click it. And you'll see down here that every time I hit this button, It's unmounting and remounting the component. So what's happening is whenever the state changes, this state gets a new string. And because this is a dependency here, we're able to more closely look at these. I'm pretty sure if we get rid of this, it would still work. Let me just double check that. No. But it's happening behind the scenes anyway. So this use effect is helping us visualize some things here. So every time I click this button here, this is the dependency that's being used in this use effect. So anytime anything happens to this, this fires off. But what's important here is whenever this fires off, because this is changed, this gets a re-render. So every time anything happens to something that's defined as a state inside of your component, a re-render will occur in some instance. Okay, so, man, I'm kind of upset that the image thing didn't work out because I was really excited to show, but I can do this without the images. So now that we have the context of a button pressable, we can hook into what that is doing. I've taken the liberty of writing some predefined data objects. Let's see. Give me a second. Let me get rid of this button component. And then we go ahead and delete. No, I'm going to delete. Yeah, I'll delete this. Actually, I'll keep this here for now. Okay. So let's go to the source folder here. I have created this, let's see, object type here of Pokemon. So what I'm doing here is I'm exporting this interface, and this interface is just a data object that I've defined, and it has these primitive data types, right? In here, you'll see one of them has a question mark next to it. This is just basic TypeScript here. This is basically saying that this is an optional component, or this is optional reference. And then this one also is an optional reference. However, if I go to the place I'm using this component, which is inside data, I have a bunch of Pokemon here that I've taken the liberty of filling out information for. So I have, I think I have 9 Pokemon here. They're in order by ID. So the first one's Bulbasaur, second one's Ivysaur, then Venusaur, going on all the way down until we get to Blastoise. So I didn't have time to get all 200 Pokemon. Don't judge me. I'm pretty sure if I wanted, I could have AI fill all the rest for it, but I don't really care for that. So what I've got here in this data object, I got some references. I got the name, I got the ID, the type of Pokemon that it is, weaknesses that it has, height and weight information, image information using relative pathing. Well, this one didn't have a problem referencing that image. I wonder if that'll work out. And then we have a color here, a description, and then after that description, and that's pretty much it. So I think the only thing that's missing here, no, there shouldn't be anything missing because this local image was optional and this description was also optional. Okay. So this should be all the information, and it's just repeated several times, different descriptions. I pulled these descriptions from the Pokemon's official, Pokedex website, just for the sake of playing around with some concepts here. So let's take a look at a flat list. I'm going to go ahead and comment these out and this. And then in here, I am going to make a flat list. And a flat list is a React Native component that will render efficiently if I have multiple. Actually, let's take a step back here. So flat list will render a list of items. However, let's see what we want just one of our Pokemon to look like at first. Okay, so let's call this a. We're going to say that I'm going to make a to-do here. And I'm going to say to-do create a custom component of Pokemon item. But we're going to make that based off of the logic that we're going to be thinking of right here. So list view will take some static reference to a data object of our choice, and it'll, depending on how many we tell it that there are of that list item, it'll generate that many on screen for us. So let's go ahead and make a list, or not a list. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and just jump straight into the flat list. So I'm going to jump straight into the flat list. And this flat list has a few requirements. So as you can see here, this is red. So let's see. Add import for flat list. So let's see, more actions here. Import flat list from React Native. So that's first thing. And then more attributes. It needs a render item and a data attribute. So let's do data and let's do render item. So the data actually is going to come from this array here. So it should be, this is exported as Pokemon. So I am going to come up to the top here. I am going to import Pokemon from data TS. And then in data here, this is going to be Pokemon. So this is my item. And then I need an item to render here. So what I need to basically establish is some item. So I'm going to make a view here. And this view is going to, let's see, none of these files exist. You just run PNG source PNG index. Actually, I think I know how to fix this. But for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and since these are optional anyway, we'll see if we can't fix them later. Save that. Turn render item props. Okay, what do you complain? Render item is not a function, it is object. Okay, so let me go to the documentation for flat list real quick. It's been a hot minute. It is completely okay to forget things as long as you know where to find the information. All right, so we have our data right here for Pokemon, and we have an item props string, and then we have some arbitrary item, and then we take that item and we pass it into a rendered item using an anonymous function reference. Okay, so instead of this, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. We're going to create a const of item. We're going to set that equal to no, that's right. And then we're going to return item.name. So this item is actually going to be of type Pokemon. All right. And then this item here will be referenced here. So let's see, that's accurate. And then that's accurate. And then we're going to do this item. And then we will make a Pokemon item. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to make a view with item. Actually, because this item is supposed to return this. Give me a second. Oh, this is supposed to be capital I. And then this is supposed to be item. Okay, so what's happening here, give me a second to render this to make sure it's rendering appropriately. Let me get rid of this pressable. on here. This is let's change this to type, and then it's going to be item props, and then we're going to say this is equal to, let's see, title string, and then this is title, and this is item, and this is of type item props. Okay, so that's accurate. And actually, this should, yeah, so this should be Pokemon. And that gets imported from there. And then this, it's not, why is this not working? Title. Because that's supposed to be a Pokemon, and then this is Pokemon.name. And then this is Pokemon is of type, should be of type Pokemon. Pokemon is already declared under the scope. Okay, fine. iPokemon. Okay, and then this item here is no longer an item. This should be give me a second. This item, and then key extractor item.id, data under data, and then each rendered item should be a version of the data. That's probably why that wasn't working. Okay, data must be assigned to an empty expression, and then this is going to be yeah. Okay. My apologies for this technical difficulty, because that should be rendering this item here Pokemon of type Pokemon coming from is that why? So that's imported from there. Go to references, find usages, import specifier, and it should be under types. Copy that, and let's go back to apps here. This should be import Pokemon from, let's see, objects types. And then shouldn't need that, but sure. And then this is a return for review. This is a item. And then that's just, oh, this is not a return statement. Put that back, remove this. And then, so this is render item. Let's put the data above this. And then we are going to so that should do that. Element I doesn't have required attribute. Needs to type some more action. Yeah, but item is not of type. Let's try this. Let's do type item props, and let's set this equal to Pokemon, and let's say that this is of type Pokemon. And instead of this, let's make this Pokemon, and we will say that is of type item props. And then we'll do Pokemon name. And then this should be, let me see, JSX attributes must only be assigned to non-empty expressions. Is that not an empty expression? Let me get rid of this. And so this is now Pokemon. Get rid of this. Oh, come on. Don't be stubborn. Data name. Okay, so each of these Pokemon should be. Oh, I don't like to do this, but let me try this. So this should be a type Pokemon array. And then I'm going to go ahead and do okay, well, we're just going to move on from this. I'll figure out why this isn't working. I'll post the reason why it's not working in the chat later. But it's kind of disappointing because I was hoping to do that. But instead, we will just do we'll make our own component here, and we will reference it here. So let's go ahead and remove this. Let's go ahead and remove this data. And let's move this. Let's see. So we're going to move these and all of these. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to copy this real quick. This is kind of bothering me. Let's see. So we have this data. I'm going to copy this. Put this here. We are going to. What is this complaining about? He doesn't. Okay, that's fine. We are going to take these two items, copying this from the React Native website. I am then going to import view in text. Satisfy those requirements, and then that's accurate. Let's see, and then the flat list component, take this, copy it, and put it here. Flat list isn't imported, so let's import flat list. Okay, so there's some items from the flat list. How come I can't get a Pokemon to show up? Instead of this data, I'm going to reference Pokemon directly. Just going to grab 3 of these, copy them, and I'm going to put them here. And then I'm going to say that these are of type Pokemon array. And then down here, this item prop has type title string, and then this had title in it with an item props, and then it had the styles for the item, and it had the styles for title, which is fine. We don't need those styles, but we do need the hold on. Okay, so those are unique identifiers. Those should be unique identifiers. Okay, well, item here wants what? So attribute type name, item dot name. Says title is sending this into here. And let me just do this. No, still nothing. Okay, well, let's just go back then to the example that was working. Agitating. All right, so we have a list of items here with an ID and a title for each one. Let me get rid of that. And you'll see that they pop up here. So you hit this first item, second item, third item. So basically what this flat list is doing is it's taking each of these individual items that we've defined. It's filling out the style that we've appended here for each individual item. And then it's rendering them as individual items on screen. So I could add as many of these as I wanted to that have unique identifiers. So if I Control C this and paste a couple of them down here, you'll see that there are multiples now added to the list, but you can also see that you get this warning. Encounter 2 children with the same key. So what's happening here is this flat list is using a key extractor to grab the key's identifier. And that identifier is supposed to be a unique item. So here we've repeated it 4 times. So if I was to change this and give it some unique valuation on each of these, that error message no longer exists. Moving on, I could do a lot with these. If I wanted to, I could wrap these in a pressable. And for each of these that exist, I can, first of all, import pressable. And then for each of these, if I give them a significant stylization, so let's say style, and let's do a background, background color. So to differentiate it, let's go ahead and just make it black. And then we'll give it some vertical margin. So margin vertical, we'll do 30 between each one. And then we'll do that should be good enough actually. So that's a bit too much, but let's do 10. And then for this text here, we will just change this to font color, no, just color, and we'll change this to white, for example. And then we'll make each of these just look a little bit better. So we'll give it a padding, say 10, and then some rounded corners. So border radius of 5. All right, so now we have all these buttons here. So if we want to do anything with these, we have to tell them that give them some sort of handler. So we're going to have an on press, and we're going to go ahead and set some anonymous function here. And I'm just going to show you that with one line of code, we can handle all of these buttons. So let's do console log of button pressed. And then what we'll do is we'll save that and we'll re-render. Oh, what's going on here? So this onPress component is not set to equal this. Okay. So that takes care of that. And then, so now this is going to be setting this hello text for us. So if we come in here and re-enable this on to the screen text item, so let's go ahead and put back this. Now, if I click on these, they also say button pressed, but what I can do is I can, instead of doing button pressed, I can set this to, not this. Where is my pressable button? Okay, so I can set this, instead of setting this to button pressed, I can set this to the title name. So let's do title name. I think it was name. Let's see. No, it's just title. Okay. Title plus count. So now if I do this, it'll change the name of this text here to these individual buttons. And I'm still counting here. So it's appending the count at the end of each one of these. So here's the first item, second item, and then here's all these different third items. All right, kind of running low on time. I did kind of want to take some time real quick to show you guys how Jest can work in this instance here. So I have this tools function here. So this is just a standard function. I was going to do this thing where I converted meters to feet for the Pokemon, but ran out of time there, had some technical difficulties. I apologize for those technical difficulties. So if we move, excuse me, so Jest is a good tool for testing to make sure that your functions are behaving as intended. So here I've written this Jest test that describes this function, and then it describes some behavior that I expect the function to behave as. So if I run this, you'll see that it is giving me some results back here in WebStorm. So I have that the tests passed, and I have some test results here as well. And why is it not spitting out my expected results? So these are all saying that it passed, but let's say we give it a condition where we expect it to fail. So let's say so this is something that that the function should never do, because I've made it to where that if feet is ever 0, it would never ever spit out feet. So this should return as a failed test. And it does. And you can see this report here that we have this expected value versus this received. Okay, so that's all well and good. You know, we've seen unit tests before for regular functions, but how do you unit test a React component. So what that's going to wind up looking like is we're going to have a test folder, and we're going to have some reference to our component. And this is using its, but let's go ahead and remove that. Let's see. So here's the React Native React app, and then we're going to remove it from just global. That's fine. We can keep that. So let's do describe, and we're going to describe our app, because that's the component that we're expecting to behave in some certain way. And then that we're going to say that we should expect it to render correctly. So let's see what this is saying. Renderer is deprecated. Symbology. See this. Okay, let's go here to this documentation. New shallow rendering. The React test renderer package no longer exports the shallow renderer. Okay, React test renderer is deprecated. Our warning will fire. Okay. As React test renderer packages will remain available on NPM but will not be maintained. The React team recommends migrating your test to testing library/React and testing library/React Native. So instead of these, we should use this. So let's see. Render screen from React at testing library/React Native. So how do I install this? Quick start guide. Let's see. So let's do npm. Copy this. Let's go to console and this terminal and run this install command. And then after we do that, in the just setup.tsx file, do we have a just setup file? I don't see one. I see this just config. Let's see. We recommend just matchers, set up React Native just matchers, add the following to your just setup file. Don't think I should have to do that, but we're going to test this out. So where is this test? Okay, so instead of doing this, let's go back. We're going to import render screen, and we're going to import from this. And these are not as fine, but it's ever used. Okay, so we're going to render, and we're going to render this, and then we're going to expect the screen to have some hello text when it starts. So this should run, and it should pass a test. So we're going to see, yep, okay. So we have these console logs for mounted and unmounted because we left in that use effect. However, you can see that this test is passing because we do expect this to be there on the screen. If I was to remove this, and now it just says word, if I rerun this test, it should fail, and it should tell us exactly why it failed. It's like, okay, we have a bunch of these components. This is a snapshot of what it looks like, but it was unable to find an element with the text hello world because we don't have that on the screen. So, and if I am correct, that's tools, that's tests. We should also expect it to match snapshot. So let's go ahead and say that we're going to render some app, and then we're going to expect screen, not renderer, but render to match snapshot. So let's see what this does here. Should generate a snapshot for us. Here's the snapshot. So this is a snapshot of what our screen looks like and consists of once it's broken down to its core elements. So it's significantly bigger than what we've written, but each of these is a part of that snapshot. Now, you'll see here that this hello world exists here. And this is actually what is being referenced whenever we check against this expect. So we expect screen. So screen is what we checked, the snapshot there. So this is it expecting the screen to match the snapshot. So these should be 1-to-1, which they are. And then here I could say, oh, I expect this to be some reference in here. But if I was to go and update this component and say I changed this here now, but I didn't update the snapshot, the next time I run a test off this, the snapshot match should fail. So it didn't render correctly, and the snapshot match also didn't fail. It's like, hey, my snapshot no longer matches. I don't know why, but I'm thinking like something here changed. So now you can see it was this, and it did this. So this helps you kind of see whenever you're running tests on a CI/CD pipeline, all this other stuff. You have a lot of people working on the same project. If anything ever changes in the UI that you didn't expect to, you can or should be able to get a firsthand look in the snapshots to make sure that things are rendering correctly. All right, that's all I have. I want to apologize again for some of the dead air and the downtime on some of the things that we're working. Again, I'll be looking at some of the items that failed to work out as expected, and I will be providing instructions on why those didn't work out. But other than that, I don't have anything else. Zach, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back on over to you.
Yeah, Gene, thank you so much. Super excited. It was definitely a lot more content this time, and I mean, it's always that live coding that makes it interesting, right? So thanks for being here again today, Gene. I'm looking forward to next week in person. So definitely excited to see you again at Project Cowork. Have a good one, Gene.
All right, thanks.
But yeah, thank you to everyone that came to watch out this series. Super excited to keep doing this stuff. Excited to see new content getting talked about and a series in the name of things happening. So if you ever want to check out more or have any more questions for Gene or myself, hit us up in the DevSA Discord. But with that being said, if you have a talk you would like to give, if there's something that you have a passion to give a series talk about, message us or submit a form here. We're checking them out. Excited to be partnering with the community on giving them a platform as a place to speak or help build themselves up. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to us on Discord there. Some upcoming call outs, Geeks and Drinks monthly meetup is happening on September 4th, so definitely check them out. With the next day, our React Native and ACM Serious Talk happening that Thursday as well, 6 to 8 p.m. So make sure you note that down, 6 to 8 p.m. We'll be starting the recording around 6:30, but that would be in person at Project Cowork. Also, that Saturday upcoming, September 7th, is the meetup for Alamo City Lock Sport. They're a local lock picking group. That's just an interesting, fun thing to do. So definitely check them out. If you don't already, follow our Discords. We have a meetup and a Luma calendar if you're looking to keep up with our current and upcoming events, as well as what I've been calling a few times, the DevSA Discord join. That's where most of the community has been chatting these past year. So come hang out, find out what's happening, and enjoy some events. But with that being said, I want to thank y'all all again for coming and either watching it live with us or reviewing this later on. It's super exciting to have people come out here and participate and see what else they can build and just where they can start from. Hoping to continue this on. I'll see y'all next Thursday. Bye, y'all.